Okay, there we go.
Excellent. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've got a few people jumping on live now, which is so great. And we're really excited for this Friends from the Field webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing a really cool project that we did with George Stevens Academy and Steve Whitney's freshman class this last spring, along with Know Your Land Consulting, Ann and Kathy. And so we're joined by Steve Whitney, a science teacher at GSA, Amelia Jackson and Sorrel Steele, who were freshmen last year with this class, and then Ann Pollard and Ann Pollard Ranco and Kathy Pollard, who are with Know Your Land Consulting, who worked with these students. I'm going to give just a really brief introduction into what this, how this program came to be, and then we're going to start asking some questions of our lovely panel here. So this program came about because we were doing a similar program with Ann and Kathy at Blue Hill Heritage Trust's Surry Forest property, where we were working to restore the landscape that had been really aggressively harvested in the past, and working to restore the understory and plants that bore fruit or were good for pollinators, and that would sort of spread themselves throughout the forest and regenerate the health of that land. And this became such an interesting project that we brought it to Steve Whitney at GSA, because we knew he was really interested in these sorts of connections with the land for his students. And it took off, and I think it really exceeded everybody's expectations for what happened with it. And we were able to receive some terrific grant funding from Tyler Knowles and Larry Flood, and from the Onion Foundation to really help support this program at GSA, which was really wonderful and helpful. So I'm going to jump right in and start asking some questions, and Steve is going to share, as we're talking, a slideshow of the progress of this project throughout this talk. So you can enjoy looking at these nice pictures from Steve while we're going. So go ahead, Steve, with that.
There we go.
Excellent. So Steve, I'm going to throw the first question at you. Can you describe how a project like this fits within your curriculum, and what sorts of work the kids were doing with this project?
Yeah, great. So I am an Earth Systems teacher. So we have a class called Exploring Earth Systems, where we study the interactions between the different parts of this wonderful planet that we live on. And the goal is to better understand the world around us and those interactions and different cycles, and really so we can get at the impact that humans have on it, and how can we live in a more sustainable way. So we talk about everything from the carbon cycle, the phosphorus cycle, climate change, hydrosphere, water cycle, all these great interactions. So this project is such a great fit for that, because at the most basic level, planting plants and seeing how plants interact with the hydrosphere, and they're part of the biosphere, and they obviously interact with the atmosphere and the geosphere. It's lovely. But also to do a restorative ecology project, we start to get into a little bit more like action oriented stuff.
Excellent. And Kathy, can you talk a little bit about restorative ecology and edible landscapes, and how they sort of send an important message to students or anybody who's participating in work like this?
Sure. Restorative ecology is simply the concept and practice of healing, helping to heal land that has been altered, sometimes by humans, sometimes by natural disasters or other weather events. And it really helps to replace some of the plants that may be lost along the way. In the case of the work that we're doing in Surry Forest, we're adding edible permaculture to the landscape. And that permaculture includes nuts, fruits, berries, seeds, and nectar and pollen producing plants. The hope is that these will jumpstart nature's own capacity to heal the Surry Forest, And the lesson that's really, from my perspective, important to share with youth in particular is that we do, as humans, have the capacity not only to harm, which is the popular narrative that young people are bombarded with, but we also have the capacity to locally effect positive change in our environments, and to provide food for wildlife, to provide food for people who don't always have the capacity to fill up a grocery cart at the grocery store. They are also free to go out and harvest some of the food that will be produced in the years following the planting of all of this permaculture. So that's essentially why I think it's important just to temper narratives of humans always being on the harmful end of things with more positive and impactful local projects that can make a really positive difference.
Great. And I think it's important to recognize that this work that we're doing is being done here on the Blue Hill Peninsula, which is a really important part of the homeland of the Penobscot tribe. And we still have a very vibrant community of Penobscot tribal members who call this place home and whose ancestors were here and caring for this land for such a long time. And as a member of this tribe, I was hoping that you could speak to the importance of forming relationships between people and the land, and what all of our relations is, and how this work benefits everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that question, Chrissy. So in the Penobscot language, we have a word, and that word is Kadalna Bemnawag. Kadalna Bemnawag translates to all my relations. And when we as Wabanaki and Penobscot people talk about all, we're talking about all living creatures on Mother Earth. And when we talk about indigenous philosophies about all of our relations, none is more important than the other. So everybody is equal, and it's so important to take care of these places for all of our relations, be it the ant or the eagle. They're so important in the ecosystem, and my ancestors recognized the value of living in harmony and balance with these places, and forming relationships with all of the creatures who also share this home. So we look at ourselves as just part of the broader ecology and homeland, and that we're not more important than anything else there. So in terms of forming relationships with these places, the Blue Hill Peninsula has been taken care of for thousands of years by my ancestors, and loved, and is still loved, as you so eloquently stated. And it's just so empowering to be a part of a project like this to help inspire other people and share this love for these places that we've all, grown up in.
Absolutely. I think I can speak for all of us when I say it's been very meaningful to have this really unique opportunity to learn about this place from people who have the deepest connection here of any of us. And we're so grateful to have had that opportunity, not just for ourselves personally, but to bring that opportunity and integrate it into the science curriculum within the school system here is a really, really meaningful thing that has come out of this project, and such an exciting part of this project. Amelia and Sorrel, I'm going to ask you both the same question, and I'll let you guys answer it one at a time. And because Amelia is my cousin, she wins and gets to go first. So congratulations, Amelia. The question is, as a student, what was the most meaningful part of this project for you personally?
For me, the most meaningful part of this project was being able to help out our community. It was so much fun to get out there with my friends and turn this just field into this sanctuary full of Maine's native plants, and being able, and so the community can go out there and see what we've done is really meaningful. I feel like I'm making the community better.
You definitely are making the community better. It's so awesome. Sorrel, what was the most meaningful part for you?
For me, the most meaningful part of the whole project was that we were restoring Maine's landscape, and what humans have done is, pretty sad. We've kind of abused Maine's landscape with industrialization, and but by doing this, we're helping like the wildlife and the plants and everything kind of get turned back to what it was before industrialization, and I think that's really great that we're doing this.
Excellent. Kathy, can you talk about the importance of finding these opportunities for children and young adults to do this kind of work and connect with nature in this way when so much of their focus is indoors and on technology these days?
Well, yeah, these are the first generations of children who are growing up without the edict, go out and play oftentimes. And a lot of childhood is spent indoors and connected to electronic devices. And that's not a judgment, right or wrong, but it does create a sense of disconnect with the natural world that previous generations would have, just by sponge-like soaking up association, have spent more time in the outdoors and been more connected sometimes to nature. And so having these opportunities are a way to get kids out of the indoor classroom and teach them some of the ideals and principles that they can carry with them for the rest of their lives, while at the same time getting their hands dirty and actively working on a project for the greater good, that they can come back. Most of these young people are going to be leaving the peninsula for a time. And when they come back, which many of them will, they can bring their kids to these places that they've helped to restore and see mature trees instead of the baby trees that we planted, see the, raspberries still producing and migrating around the field and whatnot. And there's a sense of inevitable happiness and pride that can come from that wouldn't be possible if the lessons were all contained within the walls of a classroom. And yet we're still, as Steve, I'm sure, can attest, we're still meeting curriculum requirements in STEM and STEAM, and it's just done on a different level. But these sorts of opportunities give young people that chance to do something that they might not have had an opportunity to do otherwise.
Thanks. Steve, I'm going to kick it back to you. Sure. To have you sort of follow up on that thread with Kathy and discuss sort of the importance of projects like this from a teaching perspective.
Absolutely. I think anytime you can empower students to take action, it's so much more meaningful than if we're just hearing about it, in the classroom or watching a video or learning about it. And so, part of what we do, as teachers is we want to help students grow as learners and become critical thinkers. And the idea of doing that in the absence of being in the real world, obviously, isn't how it should be done, right? And so I think I'm just so thankful for this project. And even when we think about how it came about, and this idea of grant writing, and Chrissy, when you came in and you actually helped my students with it through that grant writing process, right? So it's not just, we're going to go out and plant plants and learn about, the nutrients plants need. It was such a multifaceted approach, and I'm just so thankful for that. So you were able to explain grant writing to them. The students came up with a draft, they got feedback, they revised it, they submitted it. They went through the implementation, they carried out that grant. So from start to finish, when we think about learning about climate change in the classroom versus actually writing a grant and taking action and doing something to help our community and help the environment. Not to mention making a space in our classroom to hear other views of how we can be good stewards of the land, and hearing and making space for Indigenous voices like Kathy and Ann is just so powerful, and way more powerful than any individual lesson that I could deliver in the classroom. Yeah.
That's great. And yeah, that was a cool aspect of this. And I have to give a lot of credit to Kathy and Ann, who helped guide this initial idea of, we want to do this with GSA. We want to go put plants in the ground and engage the kids in this restoration work. And then it just really grew organically into this much bigger program, and involved the kids in writing the grant. And Steve, you asking me to come and give them feedback, and I feel like it all grew. It was not necessarily all planned from the beginning, but it grew into something that I consider to be a really excellent model now, actually, for how to run a program like this within a school. So I'm really grateful that we were able to do that and continue to expand on it as we were working through it. So, learning these things for the sake of knowledge is one thing, but we hope that also this provides kids with a fun experience that they will look back on, like Kathy said, look back on with a sense of pride and as sort of a highlight of their high school career. Amelia, was this fun for you to learn in this way and to get your hands in the dirt?
Yes, it was so much fun stepping out of the classroom and, getting my hands dirty and planting, these plants with my friends. I felt like I learned so much just because, we were working hard and because, we were invested in what we were doing, and I was focused, and I think I grew and I learned so much just from working outside, just basically right in GSA's backyard.
It's very cool that this project got to happen on GSA's campus, but also adjacent to a very public walking trail that Blue Hill Heritage Trust maintains that goes behind the First Congregational Church and along GSA's property. And I know it's everybody's hope that this project will become really public, so that the community, when they're out walking on the trail, will go off on the eventual little trail that we're going to create, hopefully this fall, to encourage people to go check out this landscape and maybe pick some fruit to enjoy along the trail while they're out there, and maybe make it a space where education can happen for GSA as well, which is really nice. Sorrel, you took on a really special role for this project, and a unpredicted huge amount of responsibility was placed on your shoulders that nobody anticipated. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Over the summer, I went down to the site a few times a week to water the plants in the garden, and so I went down, hooked up the hose, and just watered everything, made sure everything was intact. And it was really challenging. We had deer get in multiple times. A tree fell on the fence just towards the end of the summer. Some plants didn't make it, but at the end, everything did fairly well. And I'm really proud of having a part in that.
I think everybody would agree that the reason there is a single plant left alive, single tree, I mean, hundreds upon hundreds, if not $1,000 worth of plants and different fruiting trees and everything, is absolutely because of Sorrel. So as Sorrel was telling us at the beginning of this, he went and watered 27 times over the course of the summer, because we were in one of the hottest, driest summers we've ever seen here. So that was taking on such a huge load. So thank you for that, Sorrel. And we will say that the students had put in a stipend line for watering over the summer in the grant that they wrote in the budget, which was so smart to think about that, and makes it so that at least Sorrel did get compensated for some of the effort that he put in, but not enough, definitely not enough compensation for what you did. Thank you so much. And I would love for you to comment on the importance of engaging young people in work like this and teaching the concept that humans have a responsibility to take care, of a place.
Absolutely. Growing up in my culture in the Penobscot and Wabanaki communities, one of the earliest memories I have is my elders talking about the 7 generations. And that basically means that we look back 7 generations in the past, and that 7th generation was doing everything in their power to make my life better. And the decisions they made and the negotiations with the settlers, they had our best interests at heart and the interests of Kadalna Bemnawak, all our relations. So when you look forward from my generation, 7 generations forward, it's also my duty to look out for everybody in 7 generations and to hope that my actions today can help to make the world a better place for those people who I will never meet 7 generations from now, hundreds of years from now, just as my ancestors hundreds of years ago who would never meet me also had, my best interests at heart. So it's really meaningful to engage with the youth in the community, especially those who, are living on the peninsula and in this, remarkably beautiful part of our homeland, and to hopefully inspire them to think about their relationship with the land and sort of this responsibility that I, as an Indigenous person, inherited to take care of these places. So I think that it's sort of like twofold. It's looking forward to the future, but also hoping that others will be inspired to do so as well.
It's such a great lesson, I think, to impart on anybody in our community, because as you have said, and these places are taking care of us as well in so many ways. And I think that that's a really important way for us to remember to think about nature in these places. And especially over the last couple of years, as we've been dealing with COVID, and that very first year, nature was a huge resource for this, for our community to find comfort and to find something, a way to connect with themselves or with their loved ones. It helped bring a lot of sanity and just calm to people's lives in a time when they desperately needed it. And so nature is there for us, and it's really important for us to remember to take care of it for sure. Kathy, can you talk a little bit about the specific projects that you guys did? And I'm glad Steve has sort of left this slide up. It would be great to talk about the various ways that you really engage the students on this project.
Well, my feeling is that if we were to come in and just give directions on what to do and how to do a project like this, it wouldn't be as valuable or well received as giving students agency to participate in the decision-making process. The slide that you see is an example of one way that a project can be carried out at low cost. The leafing vine that you see is actually a grapevine. We had a plant propagation project at the start of the semester when there was still, it was still quite cold, and I can't remember if there was still snow, but it was really cold outside. And because of COVID, we all had to be outdoors to do this propagation exercise, and everybody was just a really great sport at this very first beginning of the project together. But the point that I wanted to get across with a project like plant propagation is that a lot of people might be deterred by the idea that planting permaculture is extremely expensive to get materials for planting. And that's not to say that one shouldn't go to the local landscaping businesses and acquire some of the plants, but there are other ways to augment what one can afford with their budget by doing propagation of plants that are easy to work with, like grapevines. So more broadly, when we decided to work with the school, it was really important to both Ann and I that the students take the reins essentially to the greatest extent they could. And I can't even begin to express how incredibly impressed I was, and I think Ann feels the same way. Far exceeded any expectations that I had about how this project would turn out, and the reason it turned out the way it did was because of the students and their enthusiasm, their willingness to work, and then just the, I don't know, that space up there where we installed the permaculture, it blossomed into a joyful space as the voices and the enthusiasm and the digging and everything was carried out. There was just a sense of vibrancy, and if you go look today, there's still that sense of vibrancy. Yes, as Sorrel pointed out, we had some setbacks with a little bit of deer grazing, and that's okay. You know, those plants will recover next year, but there are blooming plants, there are vibrant fruit trees, and it's just when Ann and I were there repairing the fence from when the tree fell last week, we were astounded by the number of pollinators that were there, just, you know, in that space that they hadn't probably been in a long time. So, you know, it's that whole process that begins with an idea and a vision, but, you know, instead of dictating how it should be, the students were a large part of why it turned into what it did and the success that they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve, where do you see this project going this year with your students?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So, you know, we had talked a little bit about developing a path off of that main nature trail back out to the study site so people have better access to it. And I know you had talked about providing signage, which is wonderful. But I know Kathy and I've just started talking about having Kathy and Ann come in and talk to this year's group. This year's group's already gone out and seen the study site, but now we can introduce more of this bigger, like the aspect of why this project is important and how other people may carry it on. So I see it as a multi-year, like a project really that can never end. We can keep it going as long as people are interested in doing that. So my hope is that this year we'll go out, we'll maintain, maybe do some minor improvement, teach the students about what's happening there, and then in the spring, hopefully do more propagation and expand what's already happening there.
That's really great. And I think there will probably be a lot of satisfaction with Amelia and Sorrel's class if they're in their senior year and they see that this property has expanded year after year with what their class really kickstarted this project. And I think, as I said, they really think this is an incredible model for other schools in how to do this. And this project is starting to branch out, no pun intended, to other schools. So the Sedgwick School has decided that they want to do this, and they're going to be working with Kathy and Ann as well, and Lander at Blue Heritage Trust on their own restoration project there. And I imagine as the word spreads, more and more schools are going to be interested in doing this work, because it is such a nice balance of teaching science, but then bringing the kids out into nature and teaching this really nice stewardship ethic along with it that goes back, you know, thousands and thousands of years. And there's so much that you can incorporate into a project like this, even beyond the sciences. There's artwork to it. There's sort of engineering and design. There's, you know, math. There was writing. There's definitely a lot of history and cultural knowledge to gain. Like this project really kind of has it all, which is incredible. Sorrel, what do you hope this year's class will get out of this project and accomplish?
Well, like I said, some of the plants, most of them did really well, but there were some of the plants that I had concerns of, and I'm hoping that this year's freshmen will be able to get those plants, like in the spring, get them set in and really accustomed to their new home, one way of putting it. and able to spread and branch out, again, no pun intended, but yes, pun intended, and become even better than it was this year. So yeah, and I've met many of the new freshmen, and they seem like really great people, and I'm sure that there will be no trouble in them getting everything taken care of. So
I have no doubt in my mind that this year's freshman class is going to do right by last year's class for sure. Amelia, what are you hoping to see this class sort of accomplish and get out of this project? What words of wisdom would you have for them?
I'm really hoping that this year's freshmen will be able to go out and enjoy this like sanctuary full of Maine's native plants. And I really hope that they can go out and take care of them and make this area last for generations, even maybe like for a really long time, because it is very beautiful, and I'm really proud of what we did. And I hope that they take care of it, so then even after we graduate, freshmen and anyone else in the school or anyone else in the community can go and enjoy this beautiful place.
What was your favorite plant, Amelia, that you got to plant? Because one of the things that was really fun for me was reading on the grant that you guys wrote, reading some of your comments as you were going down through the list of plants that you were planning to, purchase and put in the ground here. And there were some really, really awesome comments about, you wanted a certain plant because it had an edgy name or something really funny like that. So I'm just curious, what do you think your favorite plant was that you helped put in the ground?
I don't remember the name for it, but it was, I believe, a cherry tree. It had these really cute little yellow cherries on them, and when we put it in the ground, it seemed like it fit with everything else we were planting. And it really stood out to me because it was kind of a symbol of life to me about how we are changing this area into this place of growth. And those cherries really stood out to me because it's kind of the first things that we're going to grow here.
Yeah, sort of immediate satisfaction for your project. Like, oh, look, there's already edible stuff here in our edible restoration preserve. Yeah. Sorrel, how about you?
I'd have to say the blueberry bushes. One of the first plants when I was going down to water, when one of the first plants to have fruit on there that you could eat was the blueberries. And I remember the day I went in and I just saw a patch of blue in there, and that was just, I don't know, it was like a glimmer of hope for me, it made me feel like all the pride that and the hard work that went into this was finally paying off, and plus they tasted pretty good. So
yeah, good. I was gonna say, I hope you snacked on them. That's so awesome. Ann and Kathy, what were your favorite plants that went in the ground, and what's your connection to them?
Oh my gosh. So when we went to repair the fence from the large limb of the tree that had fallen on it, I was so impressed that in the late summer, there were so many flowering plants that were attracting a lot of pollinators. Like my mom mentioned, the butterflies and the bees. And I really, really loved the mint that was growing there. It had really taken off, and it was growing better there than our home property where we had, taken some to, share out. So it was really just like this meaningful connection with this plant that has been growing, at our homestead for, over 20 years at my mom's house. And then I think it followed her from her previous house. So to me, that was just really special to see it living on. And I don't know, maybe can I guess yours? Is it the raspberry? Yeah. It's sort of a similar philosophy, yeah.
and in the same vein with Ann, the raspberries that we shared out from our homestead, our wild permaculture homestead, came from my dad over 25 years ago, but I had gifted my dad with raspberries about 40 years ago that he then dug up some of those raspberries and regifted to me. And I have a great big patch of raspberries at home that I cull for projects like this. So my dad was somebody who just loved berries of every kind, and we gathered every kind of berry known to humans within our area. And so I just see my dad smiling down, you know, at the thought that his berry patch is now being spread out all over the place, including at that site. So yeah, that's
it's like the generational aspect that is so important.
Yeah.
That's so nice. And it sort of makes me think of that sort of common theme of, you know, honoring your ancestors, but them still being ever present in whatever place that you are. And the, you know, the berries and even the mint, they really exemplify that. And that's really nice. I like that sort of thing a lot when we're thinking about nature and outdoors and stuff like that. Mr. Whitney, what was your favorite plant?
It's so tough to choose. I love all the trees, but I think my favorite are the Jerusalem artichokes, the sunchokes that are there. And they didn't quite thrive this summer, but for me, they're kind of special because my son has been very interested in them and he plants them at home. And so we've got those going. And I was talking to Kathy about it when we first started the project, and she said that when you find them in the wild in Maine, typically they're located in areas where Native American settlements would have been. So yeah, I think that's special for me.
Yeah, that's so great.
Those Jerusalem artichokes were gifted by Carol Dana of the Penobscot Nation, a tribal elder. And they would have done better, but they did get nipped by the deer and haven't quite recovered yet. They will be fine next year, though.
Yeah, and they'll take right off and they'll be beautiful this time of year. So that's so great. I know Amelia has to go pretty soon, but Amelia, do you have any closing thoughts or things that you'd like to say about this project before you go win your volleyball game?
It was an amazing experience. And it was so much fun to get out there, help our community, help our environment. And honestly, I would go and I'd join the freshman class again, so I could do this all again, because it was so fun and inspiring, and I just learned so much. And I'm so thankful to Ann and Kathy and Mr. Whitney for everything this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so nice. Steve, you're thinking of starting maybe a club or taking on a club at GSA that might be able to have a role in this, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I just started supporting the Eco Club here at GSA. Mr. Stevenson had helped out with that club for a long time, and he just retired. And so that's a club that really focuses on a variety of environmental issues. And so it'd be great if they could also play a role in this. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Sorrel, what sort of other thoughts are you having about this project, and any ideas that you think would be cool, sort of outside of the box ideas for the future classes, maybe not this year's class, but future classes to consider doing?
That's a really great question. Next to where it is only about a couple hundred feet away, from where the main site of where the plants are, is a small stream. And I think it would be really cool if we could somehow divert that water over to where the main area is. So then, first off, watering will be easier, and also I think it would make the area look really good.
All right, a water feature.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great idea.
That would be very, very cool. That would be super. And what do you think the biggest success of this project was?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. I think that from my perspective, the biggest success of this project was just the engagement. And, when my mom gave the introduction about how this project came about, looking back a year and a half ago when we were having the initial meetings about working in Surry Forest, and then fast forwarding to now, the ripple effects that this project has had are so inspiring that, within 6 months we were working, or less than 6 months, we were working with GSA, and then 1 year later we're working with Sedgwick Elementary School. To me, that's just an incredible success, that something that is so rooted in the community and celebrates my ancestors and the core values I think we all share in the care for the environment, a multi-organizational effort is the biggest success, bringing people together, bringing community together, and the future prospects for this continuing on.
How about you, Kathy?
Wow, I don't think I can top that, but I would add just deep gratitude for the generosity of the folks who are investing in this work, because we couldn't be out there on the ground initiating and carrying out these projects without that support. And so, it's a really big circle that has taken shape down on the peninsula. And I just, I get chills even now thinking about it, because it's just going to keep building and building. And it's through generosity and people collaborating together, organizations, and also the welcoming back of Wabanaki people to the peninsula. It's all part of the package, and I am just so deeply grateful that these are some of the unexpected outcomes that are arising, as Ann put it, the ripple effects. But especially thanks to all the people, Steve, as a teacher willing to, lead projects like this with your students, and Chrissy, I mean, you've been invaluable in just more ways than I could even list in the time we have. Thanks to you as well. It couldn't be done without a team of people working together, including the youth who are part of these projects. And I really think it's neat that Amelia voiced that she would go out with the freshmen, because one of the aspects that I hope is gained by this whole learning experience is that the students can become teachers themselves. How many young people know how to plant a tree that's going to be here for decades or generations? They do. They know how to do it. And so it would be really awesome, in my opinion, if some of those students could get out of their classes and come on planting days and be part of the instruction of, how to plant more permaculture out there. Just throwing that out there in response to Amelia's comments.
I think that's a really great idea, and such a cool way to sort of help inspire these next classes to come, who are going to go out there to sort of see the older kids, the leaders in their school, being really enthusiastic and feeling a sense of sort of like proprietary, or like, just personal connection to this project, and to help this next generation of freshmen get excited about it in advance and see where it will go. So I think that was a great thing that Amelia said, because it really does show how sort of jazzed these kids were. It was really fun. High schoolers get a bad rap sometimes, and high schoolers are so awesome. Like, I just think they're the coolest. Yeah, and they really did get into this project in a way that really blew, I think, everybody's mind on this. Steve, can you, because we really haven't done justice to a lot of these awesome photos, do you want to zip through a couple of these photos and explain sort of what we're looking at? And then anybody who's watching, if you have any questions at all about the project, about future projects, or about the edible landscape project happening in Surry Forest, please type it in the chat, and we can answer those as well.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about a few of these. This is the day before, Kathy and Ann came out and talked to the kids. So the first day we actually went out and looked at the study site, it was covered in snow. And then I think maybe a week later, y'all came up and we did the grape propagation, which was pretty cool. And then here's one of the classes that we get to pose out there. When we found the site, there were, some plants that were already growing in the back that are still there. And Kathy discovered all these blueberries behind these alders that someone else had planted a long time ago. And we were able to provide hopefully a safe place for some of those other plants to come back and thrive. And then you can see a little bit of the before picture, just this really open field area. And then these are the pictures from the day when the plants actually came. And in my mind, I knew even with the kids writing the grant, the scope of the project, I don't think I really envisioned it until Kathy and Ann started just unloading what seemed like hundreds of plants. And then it wasn't even the day. And then, so I'm like, this is so amazing. And then I don't know if it was the next week when all the trees came. And so just such a fun project. And I think about, hearing from Sorrel and Amelia, a year later, or 6 months later, their enthusiasm for the project, and just how grateful I am for how willing everyone, the students and you all were to take on this project, not knowing what the outcome would be. And so just great, just have such good memories of it. And here we are, putting in the fence posts and everyone pitched in. It was great, just awesome. Here's the raspberries going in behind the existing grapevines that were out there. And then here we are planting some of the smaller native plants in that little raised bed in that area.
This was one of the cool things about this project. Well, I just add it to the list of like a million cool things, but there was already a lot out there. And so a really cool part was the discovery. And Ann and Kathy saying, well, first, let's just go see like what's already there and how can we support what is there. Downtown Blue Hill is heavy with deer. And so I remember hearing Ann and Kathy saying, we found all these blueberry plants, but they just get like chewed down to a nub by deer every year. And so we actually built a bunch of plants in around those and then put a fence up, and I'm sure they're going to thrive because they've just been trying to get their start for so long. And that was a really neat sort of lesson in and of itself, was like, what's already here, and let's go learn about what we're seeing in the early stages. That was very cool. I appreciated that a lot. It wasn't just about, we are going to bring in new things, but let's also care for what's been living here for a long time. Really nice. Kathy, talk about the trees a little bit as we're looking at some of these other slides. What were some of the trees and plants that did go into the ground?
Apple trees, crabapple, pear, cherry. I think those were the predominant ones. And then some shrubs, including a variety of berry shrubs. But the trees are, kind of the cornerstone of the project because they are so tall and already leafed out and everything. So it's almost instant gratification in a sense when you add trees to the landscape. There are different things that you need to do in order to ensure their safety and protect the roots and protect the cambium bark from being chewed on by rodents, and protect the tree itself from being whipped about in the wind. And they learned all of those different techniques so that any one of them could go out and do a similar project anywhere else. And that, seeing young people engaging and laughing and having a good time doing it really melted my heart. I didn't expect that at all.
That's so great. I remember I went and picked up some of these plants and trees for you, and I was really excited to see not just the variety of different fruits, but the varieties within those fruits, multiple types of cherry, multiple types of apple, even some pear, I think, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, and same within the raspberries, you have lots of different variety. And I think it's so important to have such diversity out there. It's this area is going to just turn into such a gorgeous space. I can't wait to go and see it next spring, when I'm sure there's going to just be so many flowering trees and different things. All the art classes from all the 4 schools in Blue Hill should go down there and do some work in there, because it really is going to be so beautiful. Yeah, just awesome. We just have a couple minutes left, and I think we just have a very captive audience, and they haven't had any questions for us yet, which is totally fine. But if they do, they can put them in now. Sorrel, would you skip another class to go back out and plant some trees and help out the freshman class this year?
Without hesitation, definitely. One of my favorite parts of the project was getting to know more about my classmates, because like I had spoke to them and talked to them a lot, but I had never really truly gotten a good background on like their skills and experiences and what makes them them. And it was just a real treat getting to know everyone a bit more. And I mean, these are people I see every day and I'm going to see for the next 3 years. So it was just really, really important to me.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, everybody brings something to the table, right? And everybody had different interests. And I think that was a nice thing about a project like this, was kids were able to find what really spoke to them in this role, whether it was, some kids I think got more into the grant writing than others and researching the plants, and other kids really liked being able to help with the physical labor and planting trees and, carrying stuff around. And that's really nice when everybody feels like there's something for them that's really meaningful in the project. That speaks very highly, Mr. Whitney, of a good solid lesson, right?
Yeah, I'm excited that you said that, Sorrel. I think of, I want the science to be upfront and important, but, just as important with anything we do is community. And so, being out and laughing with your friends and getting to know people who you might not have gotten to know if you didn't have that informal opportunity is so powerful. This was wasn't our maybe top outcome, but it's definitely one of the best outcomes of a project like this.
Absolutely. And a lot of the themes today have also been around that sort of idea of collaboration and working together. And it is so nice when so many different groups can come together and do something that's so focused on giving back or healing, doing something proactive for the land, for our community, for ourselves. I think that's really great. And every single person who is involved, whether they were a student or a funder or one of the adult leaders of this project, really brought something important to the table here. And it's very gratifying to see it spreading out to other schools now, and to know that it's going to continue. And I'm sure, like I said, it's going to move along to other schools beyond just George Stevens and Sedgwick now. So that's going to be really great. One of the really fun things that has come out of the Surry Forest project that involved another group of students who are not from the peninsula is a really beautiful cookbook, which was created by a group of young people up in Orono, as well as a children's storybook that sort of involved the idea of these sorts of projects and the plants that have gone into these projects. Kathy, can you talk a little bit about that and how that even came to be? And I'll say both the cookbook and the storybook are available for purchase at Blue Hill Heritage Trust.
Well, the University of Maine Art Department has a program that teaches young artists to become public school art teachers. And one of the advanced classes is an art and education class that involves public service. The professor, Connie Albertson, is somebody that I've collaborated with for quite a number of years. In her class, semester-long spring class, the students are required to partner with a nonprofit organization and produce some type of work that benefits that organization. And the students have agency in what project they're going to embark on, but they also accept input and guidance and sort of a wish list from the nonprofit as well. And Connie also teaches a lot about some of the issues of Native American issues facing, for example, the Wabanaki people. So she integrates a lot of that into the curriculum and often partners with Indigenous nonprofits. But in this case, Blue Hill Heritage Trust is partnering with Indigenous people, and so she hoped to be a part of this project. And the students produced an amazing cookbook of recipes that involve plants that people might be able to eventually forage and find out on the Surry Forest land. There, with permaculture projects, it takes a few years for productivity to begin on most of the plants. So, this is kind of a longer reaching possibility, but it is a possibility. And then they also wrote a children's book that incorporates Indigenous values and around sustainability. Just beautiful work, and so very grateful for that.
They're really beautiful. I think everybody was kind of blown away by the artwork and the variety of sort of recipes and this story that they wrote and created. Really special, and another great way to engage the young people of Maine in these projects and thinking about the land in this way. We're gonna say goodbye here in just a minute, but I wanted to give the floor to Ann and just see any final thoughts you had about this project or these types of projects and their value.
I'll just say something in Penobscot. So to say I'm grateful and say Dalmeasy. So I'm grateful, I guess, that just having a grateful heart in life and doing these projects. I think that, when people come together and we all share that, grateful and gratitude in spirit is just like so meaningful. And I'm, so appreciative for everybody. So yeah, in closing, gratitude. Easy.
That's a great way to close. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks to Amelia and Sorrel for your enthusiasm for kicking this project off. Thank you, Sorrel, for keeping this project alive, quite literally. Thank you to Steve for jumping on this opportunity with us, and huge amounts of gratitude and thanks to Ann and Kathy for just your generosity with your knowledge and your wisdom and your time on this. It's making this peninsula a better place, and it's sending all these amazing young people out into the world with a better understanding of their responsibility for caring for the planet. And it's going to cause ripple effect upon ripple effect. So thank you to everybody so much. So
thank you as well.
Thank you.
Blue Hill Heritage Trust.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely our joy to be doing this work. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'll just say Friends from the Field is a wonderful collaboration with Island Heritage Trust and Blue Hill Heritage Trust. And all these videos and more are on our YouTube page. Please check them out and share them with your friends to help spread the word about all this cool stuff that's going on in nature. There's a lot of it. So thank you. And Steve, you can stop recording. Excellent. Great.